McDonald, we really do. Oh yes. Movie buffs out there will know what that is, my friend. Oh yes, what a blast from the past. Now, he was known as the Viking. That's the theme from the Vikings. The Salford Viking. He was one of British boxing's biggest characters in the 90s. He fought Winky Wright, the great Winky Wright, for a world title in Manchester. He beat Chris Pyatt, the world champion, for the Commonwealth title. And he was a lot better than his final record suggests. It's a great pleasure, it's a delight to welcome to BBC London 94.9 the one and the only Steve Foster Snr. How are you, Steve?
I'm alright, Steve. How are you, mate?
I'm fantastic, son. I've dug that Viking music out for you.
Well, bringing back old memories there, pal.
I was getting goosebumps when I listened to it earlier on.
I'll go get the old chariot out.
Listen, I always told people you burned that chariot in the Salford Canal. Don't tell people it's still out.
It was burnt in the River Irwell, that, Steve, in 1997.
Oh, beautiful. The only way to go. Now, Steve, when I look at your record, I mean, it started off with wins and losses and short notice fights in places like Dublin and all over the place. You were flying all over the place, it seemed, at the top. But then you suddenly started to get serious. And that last whatever it was, 7 or 8 years, you met some good fighters, Steve, didn't you?
Well, I did. I mean, I took boxing in them days as just a way to make a living. As you know, I'm a bricklayer by trade, and I never had any amateur fights. In those days, you could go straight professional, as you know. And I told the White Fed and told them I'd had 7 amateur fights for the YMCA when I went for the board meeting, and they just passed me with the late manager, Brian Robinson, who passed away last year, unfortunately. And then my career spiraled with Phil Martin, as you know, and he feared no one. And my first fight for them, the Champs Camp, I think I went to Champs Camp with 15 fights with 8 losses and 7 wins, and my first fight for him was Antonio Fernandez.
Yeah, who was a dangerous fighter.
Well, it was an 8
Birmingham,
round. Yeah, an 8 round of 8 threes, top of the bill, for the Costas for True benefit.
Oh yeah.
At the Albany Hotel in Birmingham.
Yep.
And we actually boxed at 12:15 that night. And you know, to this day, Phil Martin put the fear of God in
Fernandez.
Fernandez, because there was an apron. It wasn't actually in the same. We was actually in the same dressing room, and there was a curtain there. So the old fighter John Foreman, if you remember him.
Yeah, big black light heavyweight.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and John went. I tell you what. He's on the blind side of Antonio Fernandez, and Phil said to white lie again. He said, this Foster's something else, you know. He's had Frank Grant on the deck this week. He's had Morris Corn on the deck this week, and then Levine on the deck this week. He said, he's a right handful. It's unbelievable. And I boxed Antonio, as you know. He was a right come forward fighter.
Yeah.
He ran all bloody night, you know. It was great. I won on points, which is a great decision for me.
Yeah, listen, I know enough about Fernandez at the time. That was a brilliant performance for him. Now, Steve, as usual on this show, I never leave enough time. Your son's boxing tomorrow on that Ricky Hatton, Bill and Altrincham, but we'll talk about that another time. Let me ask you this. Who was the best fighter of all the guys, you know, all the world champions or guys that fought for world titles? McCambie, Carr, Eastman, Winky Wright, Pyatt, Armetti, McCracken, Sean Cummins. Who was the best of those fighters, in your opinion, Steve?
In my opinion, you know, it's a question that's been asked a few times, and I've got to be honest. The hardest fight of my life and the best fight of my life was Chris Pyatt, because it took a hell of a lot out of me that night, and it took a hell of a lot out of him. And obviously, when I boxed Winky Wright that night, I wasn't the same man as I was when I boxed Chris Pyatt, because I was 37 years of age by then as well, and there was a lot of miles on the clock, as you know. Hard
miles.
And when I boxed Winky Wright, it's the only night in boxing when I thought my boxing boots was on the wrong feet, my boxing gloves was on my wrong hands, and my gum shield was inside out. It was absolutely horrendous that night.
Everything that went wrong.
It did. It just didn't go right for me whatsoever there. And you might be hearing a few voices at the back. I'm in the local at the moment.
That's all right. Nothing wrong with that.
No, I would definitely say Chris Pyatt is the hardest fight I've ever had. I mean, the Robert McCracken fight was
tough down in Birmingham.
Yeah, it was a good fight with Robert, but you know, if I'd have been a champion that night, I'd have won the title. I'd have kept my title, I would imagine. The Sean Cummins again, you know,
he's always hard, Sean.
Yeah, and we're great friends now, me and him. No sour grapes for me when I've lost some split decisions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or even against Robert, me and Robert are good mates.
Yeah.
But it's a difficult thing in boxing when you're only going in it to make money, and then later on in your life you get a bit of belief in yourself, and you think, God, I can actually do this.
And so that comes last. Listen, Steve, I know it's been short, mate, but it's been pleasurable. Steve
Lovely.
Foster, let's have a little bit.
Bye-bye.
Steve, I'll speak to you soon. Good luck to
Love
young
it,
Steve
Steve.
tomorrow.
Bye-bye. All right, bye-bye.
See you, kid.